Welcome to today's episode of Nothing But the Truth. Our guest is the phenomenal Renee Tramble Richard, an accomplished black female attorney who has made significant strides in the legal field. Renee served as General Counsel and Vice President of Legal Services at Cuyahoga Community College for 10 years. She is currently the President and CEO of Corporate College and serves as the Senior Advisor and Counsel to Cuyahoga Community College's president, Dr. Michael Baston. Renee's professional journey is marked by a broad spectrum of experience across various industries, including banking, water and sewer authorities, municipal and state governments, nonprofit organizations, and community development corporations. Her career includes a notable tenure as a partner at Retzel and Andrus LPA, where she focused on public law and public finance. In recognition of her excellence in leadership and significant contributions to the community, Renee was named the 2022 Black Professional of the Year by the Black Professionals Association Charitable Foundation. She was also honored as a YWCA Woman of Achievement in 2022. Renee holds a bachelor's degree in accounting from Kent State University, an MBA from Cleveland State University, and a Juris Doctor from the Cleveland State University College of Law. Beyond her professional achievements, she is dedicated to community service, actively serving on the boards of Care Alliance Health Center, YWCA of Greater Cleveland, AES Management, which is Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen, and Lee Road Baptist Church. Join us as we delve into the inspiring career and insights of Renee Tramble Richard, a true trailblazer in the legal profession.
Hello, my name is Renee Richard, and I promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Welcome, Renee. We are so glad to have you with us today to really speak your truth about what it's been like being a black female rising in the legal profession and beyond. So I'd like to start by having you tell our audience a little bit about your background and what inspired you to pursue a career in law.
Well, thank you for having me. This is a joy for me to have an opportunity to talk to you about my background and myself and where I think we're going in this field. So I started out, I grew up in Cleveland. Let's start there. I grew up in Cleveland. I grew up in the inner city of Cleveland. I had a very public education, all of my education, very public. I'm a graduate from the Cleveland Municipal School District. My parents guided my early career. I was good in math, taking after my father, and my mother was a bookkeeper, and she thought I should take those bookkeeping skills and math skills and pursue an education in accounting. So that's what I did. I went to Kent State University. I followed my big sister to Kent State and went to Kent State and got my degree in accounting. And then for a while I worked as a bank examiner for about 18 months. My first job out of Kent, I was a bank examiner for about 18 months.
Now, what's a bank examiner?
So banks, both federally and state chartered banks, have compliance that they have to, there are lots of compliance rules and regulations. And there are examiners that go in all the time and check to make sure that banks are actually complying with that they're safe, that our money that's been deposited is being safely invested and handled appropriately. And so that's what I did. We came in. Nobody ever liked to see us coming.
They still don't like to see you as an attorney coming in.
Well, this is true, too. It's very true. So I guess I got early training on that. But, yeah, so I did that for about 18 months. At the time, and I don't know if this is still the rule, but at the time you had to have 2 years' work experience before you could become a CPA. So I was working on that 2-year experience, studying to take the CPA exam. Got that done, out of the way. I worked for a small accounting firm here in Cleveland, African-American owned. So at the time, we were the largest African-American owned accounting firm in the country.
Were there many females there with you?
There were a few, mostly male, even then, mostly male. All of the upper management, senior level positions were male. But there was one woman who actually turned out to be a great mentor while I was there, who was more senior than I was. And as we grew over the years, because I was with them for 10 years, so as we grew over that time period, more women did join us. And the accounting field now has lots more women than at the time I was taking my classes, sometimes there were only one or two of us, white or black, and probably no other African Americans mostly. Yeah. So that was my accounting career. And then I got partway through my accounting career and started feeling like I wanted to do something broader than numbers every day. So I had always thought about being in law, and I thought maybe this is the right time to start my career in law. And I went to law school in the evenings after working at the accounting firm. And I finished that in 4 years. So I did there at Cleveland, then Cleveland Marshall College of Law, now Cleveland State University College of Law. And I graduated from law school. My legal writing professor suggested that I talk to their law firm because they were looking for African Americans. And I didn't know corporate law firms existed at the time. So I was thinking, I can't leave my job. I need to work. I got to pay for this car. I got to pay for my apartment. But she convinced me that I should talk to it and that it would be financially advantageous. I talked to my boss. He said, yeah, you can go for the summer and work. And I did, and then I told him I can't come back. I got to go work for the law firm. And I think I was telling you earlier, it dovetailed nicely with my desire to be able to buy this little pink Mercedes that when I was really young, I used to see a guy in our neighborhood, which you didn't see very many cars, two-seater Mercedes riding around Huff. You just didn't see that very often. And this guy had a beautiful little pink two-seater Mercedes. The license plate said law. And so I thought one day I'm going to have that car.
That was a sign.
Did
you get it?
I got a Mercedes. And
Okay.
It was one of my first cars, but it was not a pink two-seater. It was much more traditional. Yeah, so that's how I started out in law.
So I want to go back real quickly. I recently finished law school in May, working full-time and doing it in the evenings. And you made it seem like it's easy, but tell us the truth of what is that like when you're working full-time and going to law school in the evenings?
Yeah, and congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations. It's a grind, it's a grind, but it's doable. And I'm sure you know at this point, right? It takes a lot of discipline and a lot of organization. And I think both of those are really strong suits for me. It's just kind of how my brain works. But yeah, so I would go to work Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 5:30. My classes were from 6 to 9:40, Monday through Thursday. So I used Friday evening as my night out because I was single. I had to have a little bit of a social life. So Friday evening was my night out, but couldn't be out really late because I got up at 5:30 on Saturday morning, and then I would try to study from 5:30 in the morning until about 2:30 or 3 when my friends were just starting to get into what was social for the day. And then I would get up again at 5:30 on Sunday and study until time to go to church. So I would stay till about 10:30. And then at the time, my father his health was failing. So I wanted to spend the afternoon with my mother and father. So I would spend Sunday afternoon with them and then just, rinse and repeat, start all over on Monday. So
Yeah, that is the truth of it. It's really difficult to try to balance everything full-time and doing that part-time, but it sounds like you persisted and had some good strategies, and hopefully that helps those who are listening because it is possible.
yeah,
You can do it.
possible. Yeah, you just got to figure out a schedule that works for you. And I always say, and I did okay in law school, had a 3-point something, maybe just missed what the cum laude
Same.
target market was, target was. But I used to say, if I could have been a full-time student, it would have been a breeze.
And really enjoyable too.
Yeah,
even more
absolutely.
enjoyable, I should say.
Yes, absolutely, because the law is very interesting. It still is.
It is, and there's a lot that can really help you if you understand it to protect your rights and the rights of others. So just so everyone knows, it can be done. Don't let us scare you with this, but we do have to share some of that truth. I'd like to know, were there any particular moments or people in your life that influenced your decision to become an attorney?
That little pink car had a lot to do with it.
Hey, we're about the truth here.
Right, right. But I think somewhere in me, and I can't tell you that there was any one thing that developed in me this enjoyment in helping people, and I saw the law as a way to help people. And I didn't start out in law helping people. I started out in law and finance. But in terms of what made it interesting for me to want to pursue, I only knew a couple of lawyers. My dad's best friend was a lawyer, and he helped everybody in the neighborhood. He helped folks in a lot of different ways, and that was appealing to me. And so I think that that desire to be able to help others, and also the respect that people gave lawyers was always fascinating to me. I never thought I could be the lawyer that went to court, though, because I was really very, very shy. And it took having children to get out of that. But I was just really very, very shy. So I was like, I can't get up in front of a jury and try to convince them. And then I was also afraid to do criminal law because I thought if I get it wrong, they're going to come after me or my family. But yeah, to this day, I help a lot of people in my church. If someone asks me for help, in a legal way that I think I can help, and not get myself in the area of malpractice or not help them in the way they need to be helped. I do try to help them. So I think it's just that desire to want to be helpful. That did it.
What challenges did you face during your law school years? I know we talked a little bit about the grind of the schedule, but did you experience anything in the classroom that maybe was challenging in terms of the treatment of students? We know law school, if you've seen The Paper Chase, it's real. That's really what it's like. Legally Blonde. It's accurate in some ways. They put you through it. So,
yeah.
What challenges did you face?
I think, just trying to get that schedule and figure out how to study and, what works and what doesn't work. In the first year, you go that entire year and you don't have exams until the end of the year that count. And maybe you had a midterm after the first semester that was 25%, but you don't get things that really count till the end of the year. So that was a real challenge, for my brain. It's like, oh my goodness, everything is riding on what you do on one day for one class. So I think that was really a challenge. Working and going to school, and my father passed during my first year of law school, and that was really difficult. And I took a couple of weeks off, and I was watching the news one evening, and I thought I should be in class, and my dad would not want me to be still sitting on this couch watching the news when I should be in class. So, I kind of used that to get me up and back into school. But
my dad died in my second year of law school.
Yeah.
So it does kind of throw you for a loop, and it's crazy that you really only have a few days, and then you've got to pull yourself together somehow.
Yeah.
But it's not easy.
Yeah. And life has since taught me that happens to all of us, right? We lose a spouse, or, God forbid, a child or a dear friend, or my dear friend lost her husband, and she had to pull herself up 2 days after the funeral and run the business. So what life has taught me, and experiences like that have taught me, is that you just got to get back up and get going, because life keeps going. While you're going through whatever you're going through, life keeps going on, and you got to either get in it or get left behind. So that was a real lesson to be learned. For a lot of the things that I have experienced, I think it's interesting, and I do want to say this. I experienced racism in my undergraduate accounting program. I experienced it in my law firm jobs, but not in law school.
Really?
And if it was there in any kind of way, it was more subtle, right? But not in the overt ways that I experienced it in my undergraduate program and in my law firms. And maybe a testament to Cleveland State University and the professors that they hired, but I felt like I was treated fairly in my law school programs, and they were overwhelmingly white.
Professors and students, or?
Yes, professors and students. There were a handful of African American students in law school at the time, in the evening. So remember, I'm an evening student, so the dynamics is a little different. You got folks that are working, and but in my programs and in my classes, I maybe about 6 or 7 really good law school friends that I made during that time that are African.
Do you feel like you kind of stuck together as a group for support, or did you feel like you networked pretty well with all the students?
No, we stuck together for support, and we studied together. We studied for the bar together. Sometimes we were able to study for classes together, but mostly there were 4 of us that studied for the bar together.
Are they still around? Can I study with them? You guys want to bring back that group, or?
Well, 2 of them are not still in the field or in the area, but notably Justice Melody Stewart.
Oh, yes.
And I studied for the bar together. And she was the one who actually called me to tell me I passed the bar.
Oh, my gosh.
She got through before I did.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah. She's still a very good friend.
So I know you mentioned that law school wasn't particularly challenging in terms of discrimination or anything like that, but how about when you got into the workplace? How did you handle any instances of discrimination, and did you experience those?
Yeah. So that's where I really ran into it in the law. So I started working with corporate law firms thanks to my law school professor, my legal writing professor. She worked with a local firm, big corporate firm, and recruited me to join them. And so I experienced a few things. So I experienced elitism, sexism, and racism working in the law firms. And that was with people who liked me, right? Who liked working with me, right? So generally, I can say I worked for 4 of Cleveland's largest law firms. And people liked me as an individual. But I had to fight or work hard to get prime assignments. And if business was slow, I had to work hard to be one of the individuals to get the assignment to keep me busy, because you have to make your hours when you're working for the large law firms. Right? And I share this story with people when I talk to them about being a lawyer and being in big law firms and the importance of mentorship. I was working on an assignment at one time, and one of the partners in our practice group was talking to me about work he wanted me to do for him, and looked at his watch and said, "Oh, I didn't realize it had gotten so close to lunch. I've got to take my 2 sons to lunch. I've got to take my sons to lunch," is what he said. "I've got to take my sons to lunch." And I knew he had 2 sons. I didn't think much about it. I thought, "Oh, sure, fine. We could pick this back up after lunch." Sure. I take my paperwork, I go back to my office and decide I need to go back to the ladies' room, go across the hallway, across the elevators, and he's standing at the elevator with 2 of my associates in my cohort, taking them to lunch. And I felt, wow, they're not your sons. They're my colleagues that look like your sons, remind you of your sons. You could have invited me to join the 2 of you all for lunch, but I didn't look like his daughter, and he didn't think about me as a daughter the way he thought about them as a son. So
take me to that moment. What were you thinking and feeling in that moment? There had to be a lot.
Yeah, I felt here's that subtle racism that he probably doesn't even think about. It probably doesn't cross his mind that you didn't see her as your daughter like you saw them as your son, so you didn't invite me, right? And so you feel disrespected, and you feel hurt, and you feel like, well, this is a microcosm of America.
And this is why I want to do this podcast, because I think sometimes individuals are afraid to tell the truth for whatever reasons, maybe their upbringing or whatever, their environment. And here was someone who did just that. He was afraid to just say, "I'm taking a few associates out." And instead, he felt the need to lie to you.
I don't think in his mind it was a lie. I think that's where we people. I think that's where that's what's to be explored, right?
Yes.
So we kind of talk about there's this implicit bias and explicit bias, and people. I don't want to speak for white America, but I can just speak for what I have witnessed with white America in the workplace. And this man liked working with me. This
Genuinely.
man liked me as an individual. He did not see me as somebody he needed to mentor. He did not see, and I think because he didn't have that affinity. You know, it's important to have mentors and mentorship in the workplace. And a lot of times those relationships, especially 30 years ago, those relationships were formed based on affinity, right? You remind me of my daughter. You remind me of my sister or my brother or my sons. And so those individuals formed through informal channels, mentorships. He was never going to look at me and see that kind of affinity or feel that kind of affinity. And I think he knew that once he had to say he was going to lunch, I think he knew that it was not a good thing that he hadn't invited me. So he just said, my sons, thinking maybe I would think just what I thought. And he's got 2 sons, so he's taking his sons to lunch. But, you know, those are the kind of things that when you are in the majority, you take those for granted. You don't really give them any thought. You just, you go through your life. I'm taking Jake and Joe to lunch, and it's just a natural thing that I'm going to do. And Renee, I don't have to think about Renee. It's just not part of my world.
It's a tough truth to swallow, but
Yeah.
it's
But
definitely.
it is the life of most African Americans across all kinds of spectrums. In corporate America, for sure, but in a lot of areas, you just, you know, I mean, small things. You know, people see someone in the grocery store struggling, and some people feel an affinity with that person, and so let me help you. They see others that don't look like them and think, well, they need to get it together. Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? It's just a different way people think. And is it better than it was? Absolutely. Is there still a lot more room to improve? Absolutely.
And I just want to share with the listeners something that we talked about related to this, about how the majority of the time when you're going into workplaces or dinners or events, you tend to be the only one that looks like you at the table.
Yeah.
And yet for the majority, that's not the case. And unless the tables are turned, they may never experience something like that. So could you share with the listeners, what does that really feel like? What's the truth of it?
Yeah, and I will say to you, this same gentleman, same law firm, same partner, we had a colleague that passed, and to his credit, he wanted to attend the funeral service. It was being held in Cleveland. It was being held in the inner city, not especially a great part of the neighborhood in terms of safety, but he wanted to attend, and so he asked if I was going and if he could meet me there. And I felt like, yeah, I do want to meet you there because I want to make sure you're okay when you get there. So we sat together, and during the service, he turns to me and he says, I'm the only white guy here. I guess this is what your world is like every day. Mm. And I'm like, yeah, this is exactly what my world is like every day. And, you know, and we just left it at that. But in my head, I'm thinking, yes, so if you feel uncomfortable today, this is how I feel every day. And this is how most African Americans in these situations feel every day. And we are navigating and trying to survive and still be ourselves, and trying to, most African Americans that find themselves in a corporate environment, we are balancing and trying not to do things that will be attributed to our race. So if I feel offended, I am very measured in what I say because I don't want to be the angry black woman in the room. My African American brothers have it really hard. They have to try even harder than I do because society, American society, and maybe worldwide society attributes any aggression to an African American male to an angry black man. Not that they don't have reason to be angry, but you shouldn't be, and you can't act on it, right? So it's a lot of times it's a balance. So, you know, and you have to, we are always trying to do our best, because if one of us doesn't, then it's attributed to the race. It's not attributed to Joanne didn't do well, Renee didn't do well. It's African Americans don't do as well. So we take away an opportunity from the next person to have that same choice. And we raise our children that way. We tell our children that you have to be better. You have to try harder. You have to do better. And, I kind of hoped when I had my son and then when I adopted my daughter, I had hoped that their generation would be the first generation that didn't have to go through those same things, that we didn't have to have the talk with. But that didn't turn out to be the case. We still have to have those same conversations. And you said, I think you made a point that there were only 2% of African Americans in these big law firms. That was how I got my job, because my first law school job, because they didn't, they needed to have more African Americans. And some governmental entities that were awarding contracts to these big law firms were saying, you have to do better, and we just can't continue to hire you, your firm, if you don't have that. Well, I am here to tell you that that is still the percentage. So it is still, I would imagine if you checked the percentage in the big law firms, it's still less than 5%.
Yeah, we'll take a moment to share a truth. In 2023, according to Forbes, only 2.28% of all lawyers at those big firms were black women. And there are fewer black female attorneys than many other of the minority groups, including Asian and Latino. So that is a truth. Yeah. Less than, or 2.28% of all lawyers at firms.
Yeah. And it's a sad statistic, because that is the same numbers that we had 30 years ago. And it will remain the same until the corporations, the individuals who engage law firms to do work for them, make it a priority to be otherwise, right? So there's this huge attack today on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And you hear people say, well, we had our first African-American president, and so we don't need to have programs that assist African Americans any longer. It is the furthest thing from the truth. Those numbers tell you right there. So it has to come from the top. A lot of people say they want diversity, equity, and inclusion, but they don't. But when you have individuals in these roles that start to try to perform the job that you've hired them to perform, they run into barriers and roadblocks and lip service. So when you do find an organization that really is involved in true DE&I work, and especially the inclusivity aspect of the work, which kind of gets left behind, you have found a gem. And quite honestly, Tri-C is a really great example of an organization that speaks to the need for DE&I and exhibits DE&I on so many levels, with women, with African Americans, with Hispanic, both our student population and our employment population. Our Board of Trustees makes it a priority to have DE&I in a dashboard to make sure that we are being accountable for it. And so those are the kinds of practices that we need to see across organizations broadly in order to have an impact on this, as opposed to the pulling back and the weaponizing that we're now seeing for DE&I and that whole industry.
Yeah, and it just makes me think, hearing your stories about how you have to have some self-restraint in terms of not being able to respond in maybe the same ways that someone from the majority could. And in the legal field is hard enough as it is. The work is hard, it's tedious, but I would imagine it has to be even more exhausting for people of color who are almost having to mask in certain ways, mm-hmm. to conform in some ways, to hold back in others. And so I guess I just admire you and ask, how do you do it? How do you keep going day after day when it's even more on you than what someone else is going through?
Well, you find allies, and you find them wherever they happen to be. So you asked earlier about the people that I studied with in law school. So, we have an affinity. We have a natural affinity. You see an African American in a group of majority members, and you're like, hey, how are you? And you kind of, you cling to each other because you know that they understand, she understands, he understands. And so, I've done that in my legal career also. I have 3 really good female friends who are lawyers, and two are CEOs now. I've transitioned from the legal field to CEOs, but the other is general
Does that
counsel.
include you? Because you are CEO as well.
I am a CEO now. I can't believe it. I'm a CEO, you all. I can't believe it.
We're sitting in your building.
Yeah, this is amazing. I can't believe it. Still can't believe it. But no, these are the CEO of AES Management that does business as Popeye. She's been my, Vanessa Whiting, she's been my longtime friend for over 30 years now. And Helen Forbes Fields, who chairs our board of trustees. We've been really good friends for over 25 years, and she's CEO for the YWCA now. And then Sonali Wilson is general counsel for Cleveland State, and we've been friends for over 25 years now. And so we cling to each other. And, it's good to be able to say, girl, did you hear? Or did you see that? Or can you believe they did that? And we just kind of get together in each other's homes and someplace private, and, we kind of talk about it. But we also are able to call in the moment and say, listen, and especially when I first came here, I call Sonali all the time because she's at Cleveland State. So I'm like, listen, this is going on and this is happening, and how have you dealt with something similar to this? And, sometimes it's just the ear, just to, you have to vent to someone, and you can't vent to Holly. I can't come and vent to Holly, even though it was great working with you when you were in school. But I can't vent to Holly, so I can vent to Sonali. And sometimes you don't need anybody to say anything back. You just need to let them say what you need to say so you can just get it out. And I tell some of my senior level clients sometimes, I tell them, send me a note or write a note, and don't send it in email because I'm at TRIC, but write a note about what happened, and then call me. And just that, that idea, and you hear it all the time, of just getting it out on paper or getting it out into the atmosphere. And then I tell them, okay, so now you can't say all of that. What's most important in there? And then we craft what can you say from what you just wrote.
That's a good plan.
And I do that with my senior clients here at TRIC.
Taking notes. I want to go back to when you said, let's say you walk into a place and you see individuals that you feel comfortable with, you identify with, and they look like you and they can relate to you, and you cling to them, and maybe you see that group of people of color sitting all together at a table. And then you see the majority wondering why they all sit together. And I want to get to the truth of this, because I think people need to hear it and understand why that is.
And people ask us that, especially years ago. I would started to hear it a lot. It's like, well, why do you all hang out together? I mean, why don't you all intersperse them? And you really want to turn around and say, well, why do you all hang out together? Right?
Exactly.
No one ever says anything about the 10 white people that are sitting at the table together.
Nothing but the truth.
Right? But then they look at the 6 black people that are sitting there, and it's like, we want to be comfortable.
They think it's crazy.
Yeah. What are you plotting? What are you doing? Who are you talking about? And it's just, again, it's affinity, right? You do things with the people that you're comfortable with. Now, we intentionally, I will say this, we intentionally say, okay, we can't all sit together at this event.
So you think about that. You have to, we
think about it, and we talk about it, and then we act on it. And so sometimes we're like, okay, no, we're not doing that today. We're not doing that today. We're not doing that at this event. We're going to sit together at this event. But there are some times where we're like, nope, we need to disperse. We're in this group, and we're part of the group, and we want to be a part of the group. We want to be accepted. And so we'll say, okay, we're going to split up, and then we'll get together, and we'll go have a drink afterwards. And that's what we do. And, it's just what we have to do. And especially if you're me, Vanessa, Sonali, and,
Sure.
And Helen, you want to continue to advance in your career, you have to interact with everybody. And you have to make other people feel comfortable with you if you want to continue to advance. It's just a way of life.
Which you do. And I just appreciate you sharing that, because people always bring that up for some reason. And I love that you got to the truth of it.
Yeah.
So listeners, keep that in mind the next time you're wondering about that.
And come and join us.
Yes, exactly.
You can come and join us. I mean, when
that is great.
When there's a table of 4 or 5 of us, you can just come over and say, is it okay if I join you? And I guarantee you 99.9% of the time, that group will say, absolutely.
And probably be happy.
Yeah, well, at least not be bothered.
Right.
We'll not be bothered by it. I would, it's interesting. I tell people all the time, we have so much more in common with our white counterparts than not. We want the same things for our families. We want the same things in our jobs. We talk about the same things. We're not really
Love is love. Kids are kids. Like,
yeah, we have
it's
the
happening to
same
all of us.
troubles, the same happiness. It's really interesting to, and having had the opportunity to bounce back and forth, I can see it a whole lot clearer than I could when I was younger because I just didn't know. And I just think the more that people interact and cultures interact, the more we will come to understand we are far more alike than not.
I love that. Cross-cultural values, and when you look into each other's eyes, human to human, it's the same struggles and the same
Absolutely.
desires.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think you heard Renee give you an invitation to the table. Everyone's welcome.
Yeah.
We all want to be together. We're all going through it, and I just appreciate you sharing that.
Absolutely.
So you have a lot going on. You have done so much. We haven't even gotten to all of the awards that this woman has won, all of the service that she's engaged in. We alluded to it in the bio, but it doesn't cover it. And I just want to share with the readers, or the listeners, how do you manage to balance your personal and professional life, also in the midst of the challenges that you deal with day to day?
Yeah, my friends ask me that too. My African American friends ask me that too. I think my family asks me that. Everybody asks me that, and I don't really think about it a lot. But when I do pause because people ask me like this, I go back to what we talked about at the beginning. Organization and discipline, and kind of coupled with, at this point in my life especially, doing things that I enjoy doing, right? So my mind is organized. I'm always thinking about, how do you organize something? How do you make it more efficient? How do you do what you have to do next? How do you make that more efficient? And then once I figure out, what I think is the most organized, the most efficient way to do things, then I'm committed and utilize the discipline to do what I've said in my mind. This is the way you should do it. It helps a lot if you're doing things you like to do.
True.
Right. So most of those things that I have won awards for, I wasn't doing things to win awards. I was doing things that I liked doing. Right. So, the Black Professional of the Year award just blew me away. I wasn't expecting it. I don't think you ever can prepare for that award. It is such an enormous award in the African American community, and I am so grateful to have been selected for that amongst the people who I grew up watching and admiring receive that award. I just didn't even think about it was going to happen for me one day. It was never on my radar. Nothing I ever, you just don't plan.
You were just going for the pink car.
There you go. I just wanted to have fun driving that little pink convertible. But work that I do with NAACP, I really enjoy doing it. It's a lot of work, but I absolutely enjoy doing the work that I do. And it's helping folks to do what they have to do. The work that I do with my church, our food distributions and our clothing distributions, is something I see a need for, and I just got involved because I wanted to help, and I enjoy it when I'm doing it. So a lot of things, the people that I have helped along the way, I just wanted to help them. A couple of young girls who. You talk about challenges. My challenges are nothing. I think about these twins that I wound up helping out and getting my church to help out. I met them. They came to help in a food distribution when they needed food themselves. And they caught public transportation to come to help us give food to others. And so when it was time for them to go away to college, one of our church members had been mentoring them, and he brought them to the program. And when it was time for them to go away from college, we were like, well, what do you need? What do you want to, give me a list of what you need. Let me see if I can get folks and we can help you. And it broke my heart. They gave me a list that included 3 things, shower shoes, a bathrobe, and maybe, something very fundamental and very basic in your life. And I think about if they were my kids and giving me the list, my kids would have had a microwave, a cell phone. But these girls just wanted the most basic of things. And I was like, oh, my gosh, we have to help them. And so, my church family just showed up big time. We just said, listen, I'm going to have them to my house. We need to help them. If you're inclined, just help and sign up. And we put a list in. So we got everything that they needed, right? And they were so grateful. And I was grateful to be able to help them. And one of the twins wanted to leave her things at my house until it was time to leave because she didn't feel safe taking it to where she lived. She felt like they would take it from her. The other twin was like, I'll just fight anybody who tries to take it. But, so, we think we have challenges, and then you meet somebody who has, greater challenges. And so, there it is. I want to help. That's who I want to help. I want to do what I can do. And for me, it didn't cost me, a whole lot of strife or, discomfort to help these young women. But it meant the world to them. And they're doing great. They're both doing great.
And I just have to pause and share that truth again, because I would do food delivery with Labra through John Carroll. Mm-hmm. And we would go every Friday evening. And in fact, I was taking Tri-C students out to do that with me. And we would go in a van and we would have food packed in the back. And most of the time, if I was making the food, sometimes it got denied and declined by the people we were taking it to. But we were going out on the Friday after Thanksgiving. And your story reminded me of this because there was a gentleman there. He's a veteran, had really horrible breathing problems, didn't want to bother anyone with trying to get help at the hospital. But he did the same thing that your two women did, where he said, we were trying to give him his food, and he said, no, I'm not eating mine until I come to the shelter, because we would always take the excess to a shelter to feed everyone else first. And I think that's another truth that maybe we didn't even plan on talking about today, but just a reminder that you think people and what they're about, and there's always presumptions about folks that they just take handouts, they just take.
Yeah.
No,
they don't.
this is not it.
No.
They want to serve.
Yeah. And often those amongst us that have the least are giving the most. And you will find people who have just very little, putting together meals to serve others, organizing people to bring socks and dry shoes to give to others, and they need a pair of shoes for themselves. It takes life experiences to understand that. And, looking back, you realize that so many people have just helped others who had very little for themselves.
And I like what you just said, because I think this whole interview today is really about kind of just putting yourself in places and spaces where you're with people who are different than you, who are having different experiences, but who are fundamentally at their core are very much the same as you. Mm-hmm. And allowing yourself to be open and experience that and understand their positions, understand where they're coming from. And it sounds like you've really done that and been open to that your whole career. You've put yourself in a variety of places and spaces.
Yeah, I mean, and it makes for a rich life, right? We could do one thing all the time, the same way with the same people, and you don't learn very much that way. And if you broaden your horizons, and if I let white people into my life, and then learn more about how you do things and why you do things and what's the driving force for why you do things, then I learn more about just society generally, and you learn tolerance.
Yes.
And so, I can't say that anything has been really planned out, or I'm going to go meet Holly and I'm going to go meet Ellen and I'm going to get enriched from these things. Just kind of organically happen by putting yourself in places that you feel comfortable, or that you want to learn something about, or you want to be exposed to, and being curious about. And
yeah, and even us getting together today, I've been at the college 15 years. I don't know how long you've been here.
12 now.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And we've known each other a long period of time, but maybe don't know each other as well. Right. But you reach out, you ask if you're willing to have a conversation, and then you've got me over here bringing my tissue out and getting teary-eyed. I'm glad my head is turned sideways so they can't see, but it's just, taking that time, getting together in a space, and just being willing to learn more about each other,
Well, I love your humanity.
What's that?
I love your humanity.
Oh,
and I'm sorry that I made you cry.
I know, she is making me cry. I don't think I can edit that out either, but
don't edit it out. It's the real part. You told me we were going to be authentic. That was authentic. And but yeah, I mean, just having this podcast that you're doing, I think, is a testament to who you are and and how you can do one small thing that can help a whole lot of people, because people will hear your truth in a way that they've never heard it before. And I think that you should be commended for that.
Well, thank you. I just knew you were one that I wanted to talk to, and as I said, you're the first one. So if it tanks after this, Renee, though, we're not talking anymore.
It'll be all my fault. Oh, no.
Hopefully they're still listening. So I wanted to ask, just in terms of mentorship, I know you mentioned some of the women from law school who mentored you, but has there been anyone else special in your life that you've come across that maybe you were surprised became a mentor, or who just really changed things for you and advocated for you all the time?
So I came along in my career at a time when mentorship hadn't really formed, especially at the beginning of my career. But at the at the accounting firm that I started with, that accounting firm was Watson Rice. And Tom Watson was the managing partner. At the time, he was president of the Ohio Accountancy Board.
Oh, wow.
A very rare thing to have a black man who was chair of a predominantly almost all white conservative organization. He was also a Republican. I think that helped him a lot during that time.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah. But he was a mentor. And I have to say that he was very influential in my early career. And, about where you could go. And he dreamed big. And he did things with the White House. And he was a White House fellow. And he just had very big dreams. And we used to laugh at him, and they used to talk about him being arrogant and pompous. But he was a mentor, and you need big dreamers in your life. And so he was very helpful. And I would always, when I look back, and he would always say, you're going places, and you're growing, and you're climbing. And I will always remember he said, and don't pull the ladder up behind you. I was a little offended that he thought he had to say that to me at the time.
Right.
But it makes perfect sense that he said it to me, and I think it a lot, and I think it about others a lot. And I remind people sometimes,
turn back around.
Yeah, don't pull that ladder up behind you. But through my law firm days, I didn't really have a mentor. I can't say that I can point to anyone in my law firm days who served as a mentor, which is why we formed the kind of allies that we formed. I just didn't have it. Once I reached the college, I just had great colleagues, really great colleagues. Dr. Thornton was on her way out. Dr. Johnson was on his way in. He was a great boss to have. Dr. Baston came in, and he looked at my background, and he was like, I think you could do some other things. And he just elevated me in a way that hadn't happened for me. And so I give great deference and credit and gratitude to Dr. Baston for uplifting me to this position that I have now, that I never saw myself in.
And he has that ability to just see things in people, and he makes you feel so inspired all the time.
Yes.
And we're lucky to have him. I also want to tell everyone that she's very humble and not talking about all of her amazing abilities. And I just want you to share with them, what is it like being the president of Corporate College East? What does that look like on a day-to-day basis? Not many people ever reach that status, so tell us what it's like.
Yeah. So I will say I'm president of Corporate College, so it includes East and West.
Oh, yep, sorry.
That's okay. But I don't want to slight Corporate College
If
West.
I get fired for messing that up, it was a pleasure working with you.
You're not going to get fired. But it is amazing. It's an amazing job. I am having all kinds of fun. I get to be creative. I'm used to leading at this point, having led. Being general counsel was great experience for this job even. It's great experience because I got to make decisions and make decisions in difficult times, and times when people weren't especially comfortable and were worried. And I got to advise folks who were on our board of trustees. I got to advise presidents. So I got to interact with other CEOs a lot. And I got to watch how those CEOs conducted business and did their jobs. So that was great experience for me. So when I stepped into this role, it was
a win-win.
Yeah, it was a great safety net. So I just came to this job and treated it as though it were my job. and I just had great fun. There were great people here, but they hadn't had a leader for 3 years. Throughout the pandemic, they didn't have a president, and the search for the president stopped when the pandemic started, and so it was waiting for me. So it's and it's a great opportunity to have an organization and lead an organization that had a foundation, that needed some tender loving care because it had been ignored for several years, and then to try to create new things to take it to another level. And so that's how I view what I'm doing now. And when Dr. Baston said, we really need to do something in entrepreneurship, I thought, yeah, we do. And then he said, and you can have Ronna McNair to work with you if you want. And I'm like, absolutely, I want Ronna. She is amazing. And so she's our executive director for the Center for Entrepreneurs. And together we have had great fun creating the Center for Entrepreneurs and getting curriculum up and running, and developing a podcast studio and getting it up and running, and launching a speaker series now, and now adding more people to our speaker series, and just thinking about our traditional business and how can we advance our traditional business and make it more innovative and more cutting edge and more inclusive, because the African American community has not been out here, and we are addressing that, and we want to be more inclusive. We want to invite the Hispanic community to join us at corporate college, and the African American community to join us, and and more women to join us. A lot of our staff are women. In fact, I just hired a white male, and I think he's the first white male that's on our team. Yeah, but it's been great fun, and we're introducing new programs, and we are introducing new partnerships and trying to collaborate with lots of organizations across the city that are involved in entrepreneurship, and we're trying to join them in a way that we're not duplicating everything that's out there, but trying to create a pipeline amongst our various organizations, and that's been a challenge, but a lot of fun to do. And I'm a community person, so getting out in the community and working with folks in that way is great too.
Well, and it just takes me back to, I think, one of your core fundamental truths that you mentioned earlier, and you've mentioned throughout, is you've just always gone after helping other people.
Yeah.
And then the work falls into place. But you can see it's at the core of who you are, and I just think it's inspiring for listeners to hear that. Do what you love, and you love helping people, and that's very clear. And it's no surprise that you've landed where you are now. And I'm a product of your podcast series, and I can't say enough about it. The opportunities that are here at the college, even working here 15 years, you don't always know what's going on. And there is so much being offered at corporate college. So I encourage listeners to take a look at your website and see what's out there and do it and jump in. The teachers are phenomenal, and the staff is so supportive. So I just want to encourage people to visit, and you'll be welcomed by Kim Harris as soon as you walk in the door, and you feel like you're at home with family. And so you've just got a great team, and I am so excited that you're here and in this role. But thank you for these opportunities. I wouldn't be doing this with you without it.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me today. Thank you for the plug for corporate college. Yes, everybody come out, see us at corporate college. We do have lots to offer. And this has been a great experience for me, too. So I wish you best of luck with your podcast and hope that lots and lots of listeners come listen to Holly, you all.
Well, we have to end on that. Thank you so much, Renee.